Homemade chicken stock is surprisingly easy to make, much easier than I think most people believe, and it tastes way better than anything you're gonna buy at the store. And nothing quite beats the smell of a pot of homemade chicken stock simmering away on the stove. Now, whenever I make stock, I like to use 2 chickens, so I know that I'm gonna have plenty of leftover stock. And what I look for are organic chickens that are about 5 pounds each. Now, you wanna check the inside of the bird and make sure that there's no gizzards in there. Oftentimes you'll see they come in a bag just like this. Some chickens will have it, others won't. If it's in there, you do wanna remove it. Now, FYI, you could take these, saute them in a little bit of olive oil, and then include them in your stock, which will give it an even richer flavor. But for the base recipe that I am sharing today, I'm not including it, but do know that that is an option available to you should you want it. Now, on another note, you could also make this stock using just the chicken carcass, which means it's the bones of the chicken without the meat. But I like to use the whole chicken because then I pull the meat off and I use that to make a homemade chicken soup, which I will be sharing with you guys in my next video. So I've got a nice big 12-quart stock pot, and I'm gonna start by getting my chickens into the pot. Then it's time for my veggies. Now, for all of my veggies, I give them a good rinse under cold water, but I do not take the peels or the skins off the vegetables because we want to extract as much flavor as we can, and there's a lot of flavor on the outside. So into my pot goes 2 onions that I've cut into quarters, 4 carrots that I've cut into half, 4 celery stalks cut into fourths, 2 large or 4 small parsnips halved. Now, if you're not familiar with parsnips, they are very similar to carrots. They're a starchy root vegetable, but they're a bit sweeter and nuttier than a carrot, so they add a great flavor to the stock. And then 1 head of garlic that I've sliced in half lengthwise. Next, I've got some fresh herbs. So I have about 10 sprigs of thyme, which in my opinion is essential to chicken stock, 15 sprigs of parsley, and then 15 sprigs of fresh dill, which is gonna give a really nice, clean, bright flavor to the stock. Then 2 tablespoons of peppercorns and 1 tablespoon of kosher salt. Fill up the pot with cold filtered water. Oops, and I almost forgot my bay leaves. So I'm gonna finish that off by popping 2 dried bay leaves in there as well. Now I'm just gonna grab this whole pot, put it on my stove, and bring it up to a boil. So I've got a high heat going, and then once I see that boil, we're gonna reduce it down to a simmer, and then I'm just gonna let it sit and simmer uncovered for 4 hours. You don't even need to stir it. Go about and do your thing. Homemade chicken stock is not only absolutely delicious, but it's very calming and soothing to drink. So it's a great way to relax and to de-stress. It's also loaded with calcium and collagen and gelatin, so it improves bone density. It's great for our joints, and it's a powerful immunity booster. Now, after the 4 hours, you're gonna see that the liquid has reduced down and the stock is nice and rich and flavorful. So I'm gonna shut the heat off and just let this cool for a while. You wanna be able to work with it comfortably, so you're gonna have to give it a good hour or so. Then the first thing that I do is I remove all of the ingredients that I put into the pot. So the chickens, the veggies, the herbs, you just wanna remove as much as you can. Then from my chickens, I am going to remove as much of the meat off of the bones as I can. And remember, I'm going to use this to make homemade chicken soup. So this chicken would make a great head start ingredient. And then as for the veggies and the herbs, all of the flavor has been pulled out of them and it's in our stock now. So this stuff I just toss. Now it's time to strain the stock. So what I do is I get a big pot, you could also do this with a big bowl, and a fine mesh strainer. And then I carefully pour the stock through the strainer, and you'll see that it catches any little bits that we couldn't get, and the stock goes into the pot or the bowl. Now, if you wanted your stock to be very clear, you could do a second strain, but this time line your strainer with some cheesecloth. For me, I'm cool with a more rustic stock, so I don't do that step. Now, from here, what I like to do is chill my stock in the fridge overnight. Then in the morning, you'll see that all of the fat has risen to the top and it's hardened. So it's very easy to scoop off. If you wanna leave a little bit in your stock, that's totally fine, but I usually scoop a bunch of this off. Now, once your stock has chilled, you may notice that it has this gel-like texture, and I promise that is a very good thing. That means your stock is rich in gelatin, collagen, and flavor. And now it's ready to be stored for the long run. And you have a few options. Option number 1, I know a lot of people, they like to transfer the stock into plastic Ziploc baggies and then they lay them down flat in the freezer so they can stack them up. So there's your first option. Option number 2, you can use some good old-fashioned leftover takeout containers, like we get these from the Chinese place. They're tall plastic containers, and you could also buy these online. Just make sure when you fill them, you leave a couple inches from the top. And then finally, and my personal favorite, is to do it with a wide mouth glass mason jar. And again, when you do this, you have to leave a couple inches from the top so that when it freezes, that liquid is gonna expand and it doesn't break the glass or pop out of your plastic container. Now, I will leave links down in the description box below for some of these containers if you're interested. And very important, when you transfer your stock to any of these containers, you wanna make sure that it is completely cooled down. Completely cooled. You don't want to be putting hot stock into your containers. And now you have yourself some homemade, flavorful, nutrient-rich chicken stock ready to go when you are. I'm telling you, homemade stock will bring your soups, your stews, your chilies all to the next level. And you know what I'll even do sometimes? I will leave a couple mason jars right in the fridge, and then I'll heat them up with a little extra garlic and some turmeric, maybe a squish of lemon or cayenne pepper, and then we'll just sip on that all through the winter. It has so much flavor, and it's a great immunity booster. Now, if you haven't already, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody else you know who's trying to keep it clean and delicious in 2017. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Danny Spies. I will see you back here next time with some more clean and deliciousness. Cheers! Homemade chicken stock is surprisingly easy to... 3. Homemade chicken stock is extremely easy to make, easier from the top. Easier than I think most people believe, and it tastes way better than anything you could ever, anything you would ever buy at the store. Plus, nothing quite beats the smell of your home when you have a pot of homemade chicken stock on the stove. What happened?